Cops deal with danger all the time, but nothing prepares them for things that cannot be explained by logic. A girl vanishes right from the driver's seat. A pitch-black entity follows a security guard all the way home. A woman with her head twisted backward appears on an empty Indian road, and a winged creature drops from the sky in front of a patrol car. If these moments can terrify trained officers, you definitely do not want to watch them alone. Ohio has reported many mysterious screams coming from the woods, enough to scare even the police. One officer was out fishing when he suddenly heard a piercing scream erupt from deep inside the forest.
God damn it!
It sounded human, but it was far too loud and too distorted to be a person. By nightfall, a patrol team passing through the same area heard strange noises and stepped out to investigate. The moment they turned on their flashlights, the scream blasted again. So loud and so close that the entire team panicked and ran straight back to the car. Another team heard the same scream near a cemetery during their night patrol. Just a few seconds of the sound were enough to send them fleeing. The noise did not resemble any animal or human. No one knows the source, and no officer has dared to return to investigate. The question remains, what kind of creature screams like that in the middle of a cemetery? This next incident happened in the parking lot of a police station in Albuquerque. A security camera set to a wide angle suddenly captured a floating figure above the parked cars. At first glance, it looked like a human body with strangely long limbs. The moment that made the clip go viral was when the figure jumped forward in a single frame, almost like teleportation. There was no sound, no wings, nothing that could explain how it hovered in midair. A few seconds later, the figure blurred into a white streak and vanished right out of sight. When the CCTV footage hit the internet, officers said they had never seen movement that defied physics like this. Some believed it was a ghost, others said extraterrestrial being, and cryptid fans simply called it a flying humanoid. As of today, the department still has no explanation. Here is a moment that haunted anyone who watched the news that night. On May 30th, 2016, along Highway BR-262 in Brazil, traffic police and rescue crews were handling a fatal crash when a local TV station arrived to film the scene for a report. Everything looked normal until the broadcast aired. Viewers flooded the station and the police department with calls, saying a bright white figure appeared inside the wrecked car behind the reporter. When police rewound the CCTV and the station's footage, they saw it too. A faint human-shaped shadow rising from the driver's seat before dissolving into thin air. There were no survivors in that vehicle. The victim's body had already been removed. Brazilian police never gave an explanation. Many believe it was the moment the victim's spirit returned to look at the crash scene one last time. Now to a chilling incident inside a New York hospital. A security guard walked into a patient room and handed a bunch of balloons to someone. But the moment he stepped out, the balloons drifted after him, as if being pulled by an invisible hand. Later, he returned to the room and started talking to someone in the air. On camera, there was absolutely no one in front of him. The camera operator radioed in, warning that the room was completely empty. That was the moment he froze, realizing the person he had been speaking to was not a patient, it was something else. A patrol officer in rural Saskatchewan slammed his brakes when his dashcam caught something terrifying. A massive figure was walking along the roadside. It was almost twice the height of a man, with broad shoulders, thick fur, and a heavy, exhausted gait like every step took effort. What disturbed viewers most was that it never turned toward the headlights. It kept walking, slow and weary, like it had been wandering the woods for years. Some said it was an old Bigfoot. Others insisted it was someone in a suit. But when the officer sped up to follow it, the creature slipped into the tree line and vanished within seconds. No one expected a simple evening walk to turn into a moment he would never forget. An off-duty officer was walking his dogs in a New Jersey park when the dogs suddenly froze, raised their fur, and whimpered. He assumed there was wildlife nearby, until a human-shaped figure drifted out of the darkness. It looked like a bride, with a glowing white dress in the night, while the upper body was faint and smoky. The dogs were so terrified, they hid behind his legs. The figure stood still for a moment, then turned around and floated away as if it had never appeared. When he told people what he saw, locals immediately called it by its familiar name. The Ghost Bride, a South Asian spirit said to lure wandering people. This moment has confused an entire police team to this day. Everything started like a normal traffic stop. Officers asked the young woman for her license and registration. She cooperated, nothing unusual. The officer walked back to his cruiser to run her information, but only a few seconds later, when he looked back at her car, the driver's seat was empty. No door opening, no footsteps, no movement at all. She was gone as if she had never been there. The officer shouted her name and scanned the highway with his flashlight, but there was no trace. Online, people split in half. Some believe she could teleport. Others say she was a non-human entity in disguise. Next, an Ultimart owner in Wisconsin called police in 2022 about a woman acting strangely. When officers arrived, she suddenly screamed, ran outside, and thrashed wildly. The body cam behind her caught the moment she jerked her hands in the air, like she was trying to cast a spell at the police. The officer tried to restrain her, but she kept making disturbing, unnatural sounds. Some people say she was acting, but others believe her behavior came from something beyond explanation. This story unfolded like a scene from a horror film. During a midnight patrol in a remote village, Indian officers saw a woman in a torn white dress standing alone in the road. What froze everyone in place was her head, completely twisted backward. Her feet were also facing the wrong direction, yet she walked forward with a disturbing, unnatural motion. When she suddenly rotated her entire body, the officers saw her deformed torso clearly under the flashlight. They instantly understood she was not normal. They left the area without staying a second longer. Not only police, but anyone would get chills seeing this. A cemetery guard recorded a creature that did not resemble a human at all. It sat low to the ground on 4 oddly bent limbs, with long, thin arms and legs that looked out of proportion. In the dark, its shape looked like a deformed hobbit slowly turning its head toward the camera. To this day, the guard says he has no idea what he witnessed, only that it was not human. Subscribe and get ready for moments even scarier ahead. The next story truly makes viewers uneasy. While a guard was working his shift, a co-worker accidentally recorded a dark figure walking right behind him. The figure had no face, no details, just a thick shadow stuck to him step after step. At 2:30 a.m. when he got home, his Ring camera alerted movement. The footage showed the same shadow roaming around his yard as if trying to find a way inside. He believes only the cross in his living room and his wife's regular sage cleansing kept anything worse from happening. A call about strange noises in an empty house sent California police to investigate immediately. But before breaking in, They shined their flashlights toward the attic window and froze. Standing in the frame was a giant black figure shaped like a person, completely still, as if waiting for them to look. It tracked their movements, even though its face could not be seen. The pressure coming from the entity was so intense, they halted the operation and left the scene. The house was sealed afterward. No one has dared to approach the attic again. Now to a famously haunted abandoned house in Michigan. A paranormal team led by a former officer went inside, walking through the darkness and seeing nothing unusual until they reviewed the footage. In the living room stood a woman in a white dress, frozen like a statue, with long black hair covering half her face, staring straight at them. No one in the group saw her in real time, and police later found no sign of any living person inside. What did they capture? An intruder? Or something far worse? Another eerie incident linked to strange sounds. During a quiet night shift at the San Francisco Armory, an officer heard something unusual and started recording. As he approached the source of the sound, a closed door slowly opened on its own right in front of him. No one was behind it. He jumped back in shock. Building security said this wasn't the first time, but no one has ever stayed long enough to find the cause. Now let's go back almost 30 years. A Calgary officer accidentally recorded a scene that gave viewers nightmares. A massive shadow figure attacking a man and throwing him to the ground like he weighed nothing. Each time the entity touched him, his body jerked violently as if controlled. Then suddenly, the man leaped onto the shadow and twisted into a bizarre position. The clip went viral, sparking debates about satanic rituals, possession, or a demon attack. Only when a music fan recognized the scene from a Radiohead album did people calm down. But the creepy feeling of the footage never faded. A forest ranger was on a night patrol in Angeles Forest, in the San Gabriel Range of Southern California, when he heard something unusual and turned on his camera. In an instant, he saw a human-shaped figure whose head was a glowing fireball. It rushed toward him with movements unlike any known creature. The scariest part was the sound it made, like crying mixed with crackling flames. When the video went online, many said it looked like Sabi, a fire spirit from Japanese folklore. But the biggest question remains: how did something like that appear deep in American mountains? This next story began when a Yishun security guard was checking cameras as usual. He paused when he saw a girl on the balcony of the opposite building, standing completely still, head down, not moving for more than an hour. Feeling increasingly uneasy, he went to check in person. He filmed from the ground up, then climbed to the top floor. But when he arrived, no one was there. The balcony was empty, no footprints, no signs of movement. When he posted the clip online, viewers split. Some said ghost, others said an extremely well-executed prank. A farmer only wanted to check his cattle shed after hearing strange noises, but what he saw made him step back immediately. Unsure if it was a person or an animal, he called the police. When officers approached with their cameras on, a dark figure stood perfectly still in the window frame, its shape distorted and too dark to identify. It watched them without moving. The whole team fled in panic. The shed was sealed forever after that day. No one wants to return to find out what it was. Indonesia's military academy had rumors for years, but this was the first time a camera caught something clearly. While a cadet walked down the hall, the lights flickered. Then a solid, dark shadow appeared behind him. It shoved him hard into the wall and seemed to pull him toward a dark corner. The cadet fought desperately and ran for the light. For months after, he said he could not sleep and always felt something walking behind him. The next incident began with a simple request. A resident asked a guard to lock their room after cleaning. But as he turned the key, he felt watched. He ignored it until he checked the camera. On the screen, a small shadow the size of a child darted across the hallway from one door to another before disappearing in a split second. When he showed his co-worker, the man confessed he had seen it many times too, especially late at night when the building was empty. A traffic stop sounded completely normal until the officer learned who the woman really was. After a crash along a coastal road in Florida, police found a young woman sitting calmly in a wrecked car, listening to loud music as if nothing had happened. When they asked for her documents, she simply smiled and handed over a bag of potato chips. During the eye reflex test, her movements were completely abnormal, not like someone drunk, not like someone sober either. Then came the terrifying moment. The officer ran her information and discovered she had died 3 years earlier in a DUI crash on the very same road. The moment she realized they knew the truth, her body jerked violently as if something left it. Then she vanished into the air. The two officers were left frozen beside an empty car. An Indian officer driving at night saw a lone woman by the roadside. He stopped to check on her, but the moment he stepped out, the sight made his skin crawl. She wore a white dress. Her hair was wild, and she was clinging to a tree in a posture no living person could hold. She climbed upward with impossibly light movements, then swung on a branch as if her body had no weight. The officer instantly knew she was not someone who needed help. He got back in his vehicle and left the area as fast as he could. At a police station in Malaysia, the night shift was quiet until both lobby doors swung open at the same time, as if someone had just walked through. But the camera showed clearly no one was there. An officer walked over to inspect, and the wooden door slammed shut right in front of him, as if pulled by an invisible hand. He stepped inside while the others stood up, stunned. Since then, similar incidents keep happening, and no one has found a reasonable explanation. During a night patrol in a San Francisco park, officers swept their flashlights across the woods until the beam stopped on a tree. On its trunk was a human face carved perfectly into the bark. Deep-set eyes, a defined nose and lips. It looked the same in daylight and at night. Locals said they call it the soul tree and believe the face has been there for years. No one touches it because they think a spirit guards the forest. When officers stepped closer, it felt as if something was looking back at them. You just watched footage that terrified even police officers. Now it is your turn. Out of every creature you saw today, which one do you think was real and which one was fake? Leave a comment below and make sure to hit subscribe if you want the next episode, which is even darker than this one.